will be done.
Thy will be done
In earth. As it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us of our debts.
And forgive us our debts.
As we give our debtors.
As we give our debtors.
And lead us not to temptation.
And lead us not into temptation.
But deliver us from evil.
But deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom.
For thine is the kingdom.
And power.
And power.
And the glory.
And the glory.
Forever.
Forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
For he is good.
For he is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
For he is good.
For he is good.
His mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
In Jesus' name pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
The Holy One of Israel.
The Holy One of Israel.
The King of Kings.
The King of Kings.
And the Lord of Lords.
And the Lord of Lords.
And the one true God.
And the one true God.
And there is no other.
And there is no other.
Amen.
Amen.
Praise ye Lord. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Who can utter the mighty acts of the Lord? Who can show forth all his praises? Blessed are they that keep the judgment, and he that do righteousness all time. Remember me, O Lord, with the favor that thou bearest to thy people. And visit me with the salvation, that I may see the good of thy chosen, that I may rejoice in the gladness of thy nation, that I may glory with thine inheritance. The reading came from Psalm 106, 1 through 5. May the Lord add a blessing in the reading and hearing, doing of his word. In Jesus' name pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Happy Sabbath, everybody.
Happy Sabbath.
I'm going to share a poem with you all. This is Sabbath day. The next poem is called I Am That I Am. It says, my heart is here with you, no matter what you go through. Search high and low, shallow to the deep. I will never forsake you. I have given you laws and commandments to guide you. When your family deserts you, I am still by you. I make it rain. I drop Benton to make him pain. I judge the just and the unjust. In the beginning I was here. I return being unto dust. I breathe my spirit into all that's living. Unto me belong all thanksgiving. I am Lord of hosts, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Since I am the one that created the heavens and the earth, that makes me the almighty creator. Scientists create theories to explain my work. Most medicine turn my words backwards, causing a flock and a self-affliction and hurt. Congress took my prayer out of school. For no cause, I'm the one the world loves to hate. They say they love me, but take no heed at all to what I say. A few fight to do what's right, but the majority just believe in grace. My son died for you all, yet you blaspheme me. The degenerated nation headed for destruction, plus a lake of fire is your home to be. I will have the last laugh. My slain will be many. Stop leaning to your own way before you can't lean any. I am the God of war. I am that I am. Even people who don't believe in me call my name when they are damn. Ha ha ha, you are funny. Be consumed in my wrath, and I'll have your ashes and smoke. Trumpets are in place to be blown. You have nowhere to turn. The books are now open. Blessed are they that keep my commandments, but to the rest get prepared for my sword, to damnation you will be going. Before you pray to me, ask for forgiveness, and don't take my name in vain. I will not be put to shame. Come to me with true repentance. In the book that I inspired men to write, show me where I made a Trinity. Incline your ears to hear my words, and stop wearing graven images. Those with ears, let them hear. Those with eyes, let them see. Obey my words, only me you shall serve if you believe in me. Preachers, stop lying and give my people the truth. I made hell for Satan, that's a reservation made for you. I made thunder sing. I am the King of Kings. Why do you provoke me to anger? Why do you put yourself in a turn of danger? Your arms aren't long enough to box with God. Believe me, I will win. I destroyed this earth, left Noah and his family alive, and started over again. Don't test me, and I will bless thee. Keep my commandments and live. It ain't that hard. If I'm the Lord, turn the life is what I desire to give. Call me Jehovah. Call me Yahweh. What's the name my son came in? Anything else is bad for your health. Understand death comes because of sin. I am not a joke. I am all too real. I am the Lord of hosts. Stop slacking on knowledge and wisdom and let the wicked ways go. Don't let pride you abase. I don't play games. I will rain brimstone from heaven. Stop saying my favorite number is 7. And for your sake, stop debating about my name. If you receive good but not keeping my laws, You're being blessed by Satan. The unclean thing will be close to me. I am God. I am who I am. I'm the creator of all creations. I have no end, but you do. So be careful how you live. Because when all said and done, once my kingdom comes, you have to give an account for all you ever did. I am that I am.
All right. That's good. That's good. That's what's up. Deep in that. I'd like to say blessed Sabbath. It's definitely a pleasure. I always get the same spirit to be standing for you guys on the Lord's Sabbath day. Definitely with saints that are gathered here to get some understanding. So what we're going to deal with today, we're going to deal with the covenant between God and man. And, understand is that, yes, God established a covenant with Noah. We understand that, yes, God is not going to flood the earth anymore. That's the covenant. There are many covenants, but the covenant that we're going to deal with is the father of our faith. Where the covenant was originated of. And that's what we're going to touch on as to, keeping covenants with God. Because you got to realize, men break covenants. God, he don't break covenants. So what we're going to understand throughout the course of this class is that, this covenant is actually a blood covenant. It's a covenant that's going to take you into everlasting life if you endure all the way into the end. But we're going to realize that the father of it was Abraham. That's what we're going to see throughout this class. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in Genesis. And we're going to be in Genesis for a little bit throughout the beginning of the class. But we're going to start in Genesis chapter 9. And we're going to see it even, before Abraham came on the scene. We're going to realize that, Noah or God prophesied through Shem, Ham, and Japheth is that inside this covenant, you're going to inhabit land. The land is Jerusalem. And we're going to see that. As well as keeping the commandments is inside this covenant as also. So you got to realize, you can't get away from this covenant. If you're trying to please God while we're here in this flesh and blood body. Alright, so we're going to pick up in Genesis chapter 9, and we're going to start at verse 25. You get it? You go and take off.
And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant shall he be unto his brethren.
So, Noah is the one that cursed Canaan. Because something took place with Ham. And Ham, he saw his father's nakedness. So after Noah got wind of it, he was upset. So he didn't curse Ham himself, he cursed his son. Because we're going to realize, even Canaan is a geographical location that was occupied by people. Today we're going to realize that that name is no longer Canaan, but it's considered Israel, Jerusalem being the capital of it. So we see that now, what Noah said, he said, Cursed be Canaan, and a servant of servants may be unto his brother. Go ahead.
And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant.
Go ahead.
God shall enlarge Jacob, and he shall dwell in the tent of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant.
So Canaan, Canaan's going to be Shem's servant. Because we're going to see in the class that, Joshua went into the land and conquered it. But this is all pointing to that. This is all pointing to, Israel conquering the land of Canaan. And now it's no longer Canaan, but this is where God is going to set up his government at. This is the center of the world when you look at it. But this is going to be the capital of the world where God is going to rule from, which is Mount Zion. But we see is that even within the class in the very beginning, before Abraham came on the scene, the land is already going to be given to Shem. And we're going to see throughout the class who comes out of Shem. Let's go over to Genesis chapter 17 now. Genesis chapter 17, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Genesis chapter 17 and verse 1. When you get it, go ahead and read it.
And when Abraham was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said unto him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect.
We fast forward all the way to 17th chapter is because, when you look at Genesis chapter 10, you got the table of nations. You got Japheth, Ham, and Shem. So now we fast forward all the way to 17 is because we're going to deal with, Abram, who came out of Shem. Shem was what? He had Eber, and then Eber had Terah, and then Terah, had Abram. So now we dealing with the father of our faith. That's what we jumping all the way to, because God established this covenant with Abram. So we're going to see right here in verse 17 and 1, chapter 17 and verse 1, God said, walk before me and be thou perfect. Go ahead, verse 2.
And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly.
So God is going to set up this covenant with Abraham, and he said what? He's going to multiply him exceedingly. What is it in verse 3 though?
And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. So
Abraham, he's going to be a father of many nations. You got to realize why Abraham, it wouldn't be no 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
So Abraham is a key player in this salvation walk. He's a major key player. And what we understand is that what? God is the one who established this covenant with Abram. That came out of Shem. Not Ham or not Japheth. He established this covenant with Abraham. But then it said what in verse 3? In verse 2 it says, and I will make my covenant between me and thee and multiply thee exceedingly. What is it in verse 5?
Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made.
So Abram is no longer his name anymore. His name is now Abraham. Because God just said in verse 4 that he's going to be a father of many nations. So Abraham means father of many nations. So he changed his name from Abram to Abraham. And we see is what? The Lord said, for a father of many nations have I made thee. Skip down to verse 7 and read that.
And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee in their generations, for an everlasting covenant.
So this covenant is everlasting. Like I said in the beginning of the class, man break covenants. You make a covenant with your light bill company. Like, you come up short, you got to break that covenant. You make a covenant with your brother. Hey man, I'll shoot you back 20 at the end of the week. You might come up short. You break that covenant. But God, he don't do that. Like, God don't break covenants. So that's why God said in verse 7, he said, I'm going to establish this covenant between me and you and your seed after you for an everlasting covenant. So that means this covenant is going to take us all the way to our time, all the way to the coming of the Lord. So you got to realize, like, God can't lie. So he says that what? In verse 7 it says, at the bottom of that, he says what? He and their generations for an everlasting covenant. Go ahead.
To be a God unto thee and thy seed after thee.
You see that, like, unto thee and unto thy seed after thee. This could be a birth of a nation. You know what I mean? Because like I said, if we don't have Abraham, we don't have no salvation. I don't know how the story may go, but as to what we're reading right here, we see is that the beginning of our faith started with Father Abraham. We know the son. Father Abraham had many sons. Without Abraham, those sons don't even exist. So we see that what? In verse 7, at the bottom of that, God said, I will be God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. What is that verse 8?
And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, an everlasting possession, and I will be their God.
You see that? Now we go into the land, because we saw in Genesis chapter 9. We saw that Noah told Ham, I'm going to curse Canaan. He going to be a servant unto Shem. So now we see is that even God is saying, guess what? I'm going to give you this land for an everlasting possession. So yeah, we understand is that Israel got kicked out of the land. And that, according to, theory of false doctrine is that, you have some people there occupying the land now as them claiming the land, but nah. When God cast out the nation of Israel out of the land, he said he's going to allow the land to enjoy its Sabbath. So we know that who's occupying the land is far from the truth. But we see is that God said what? The land is going to be an everlasting possession. So yeah, we cast out now, but when the Lord returns, he's going to gather us back to that land. So we see that what? It says, and I will be their God. What is in verse 9?
And God said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore,
Go ahead.
thou and thy seed after thee in their generation.
You see that? So, like, he made the covenant with Abraham, but then he also said, what? Until thy seed after thee. So, in other words, okay, I'll give it to you, Abraham, and then you're going to give it to your seed, and his seed going to give it to his seed, and so forth, until it gets all the way down unto us. So, in other words, if God said it was everlasting unto Abraham, when it gets to us, it can't stop being everlasting. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it has to remain all the way at the coming of the Lord. Because we're going to see inside the classes that, hey, if you drop your everlasting, you're dropping your salvation. That's what it's going to get to. So we see that what? It says that, what, in verse 9, that's what we're at? Yeah, in verse 9 it says, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. Verse 10.
This is my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and you, and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised.
So this is even with inside of the covenant. Because you got to be physically circumcised. Now, you know the process of being baptized, like, you know, you don't have to be circumcised and baptized. No. You know, like, you're going to get baptized, you got to get baptized. But you have to be circumcised according to the covenant that God established with Abraham. Because inside of the covenant of circumcision, what? It's representing the foreskin of your heart now being circumcised, which is spiritual. And then also, Jesus even said it in 1 Corinthians 15. You know, flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom of God. So even when you're cutting away your foreskin from your flesh, that's a small significance of you not being able to enter into the Father's kingdom with flesh and blood. Even with the women, when they put away for 8 days, when they be in a fountain, that also represents you not entering to the Father's kingdom with flesh and blood. So we see is that, you know, even in this covenant, we see is that what? Every man child among you shall be circumcised. What it says in verse 11?
And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation.
So we looking at covenant. You know, we seeing inside the covenant is that what? You know, we got to be circumcised on the 8th day. Now, I understand that, you know, we come to the word, and we just not getting the word, like, yeah, the 8th day may not apply to you, but we talking about the 8th day. You know, that as soon as the baby come out of the womb on the 8th day, you know, he needs to be circumcised. That's what God is getting at with inside his covenant. And I understand, you know, dealing with today in our time, all we can do right now is try the best that we can. But we see is that God is saying that way, on the 8th day, and he that is 8 days old, verse 11, I'm going to read that again. He shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token. So the flesh of your foreskin is a token of the circumcision. So go ahead and read verse 12 again.
He that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation.
Go ahead.
He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed.
You see that? So it don't even really matter. You know, whether it be your baby coming out of your own loins, or whether you got a male servant, like, they got to be circumcised. Like, this is the covenant. The covenant don't change. God said this is going to be an everlasting covenant. So he didn't make this covenant with Abraham, and all of a sudden, you know, in 2019, he changed it. Like, nah, it's still the same. So we see is that what? It says that even if you've been bought with money of a stranger, which is not of thy seed, he still got to be circumcised. What it say in verse 13 though?
He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised.
Go ahead.
And my covenant shall be in your flesh, for an everlasting covenant.
14.
And an uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall cut off from his people, and he that broke my covenant.
See that? Like, you broken the Lord's covenant. So you got to realize that, you know, God isn't going to lie. You know, God's going to hold his end of the bargain. You know, it's on us, though. It's on us whether we're going to hold the end of the bargain. But we see is that, you know, God is saying, hey, man, if you don't deal with it on the 8th day, he's going to cut you off. Skip down verse 23 and read that. Because, you know, the covenant, we see is that right now we're dealing with circumcision. But it's a lot inside of this covenant. You know, it's a lot inside of this covenant that we must grasp as we go throughout this class. You know, we dealing with the covenant that was established with Abraham. We see that on the 8th day, you know, you got to be circumcised male child. Even if you got male servants that's been bought with money, they got to be circumcised on the 8th day. If you break that, God is going to cut you off. So we see that, but we're going to get throughout the whole course of the class is that inside this covenant is law, statutes, and commandments inside of it as well. It's also, the baptism. That's what's going to seal your walk with God if you hold fast on into the end. So we see is that what? In the bottom 14, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He had broken my covenant. Skip down to 23 and read that.
And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the self same day. And God had said unto him,
Go ahead.
Abraham was 90 years old and 9, and when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
So Abraham circumcised himself at 99 years of age.
Wow.
So that just lets you know is that, okay, you just hear the word. Like, you all know that 8 days don't apply to us. Wrong, man. But we do understand is that you ain't a male, you have to do this process. But what does it say in verse 25 though?
Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
Go ahead.
In the self same day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son.
So Ishmael was 13 years of age, and Abraham was 99. I can understand that probably was pretty painful. They ain't got no anesthesia probably. They just doing it rough. But we see is that they went through with the process because God had established this covenant with Abraham. And we're going to see that what? Abraham kept the commandments of God. Guess what the commandments is? Every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. When he said, thou shalt, that's a commandment. So that's what he spoke unto Abraham in this 17th chapter. But read verse 27 though.
And all the men of his house, born in his house, and bought money of the stranger, were circumcised with him.
Let's go over here to Genesis 26. Genesis 26. And we're just looking at Abraham, man, because I thank God that, God made this covenant with Abraham because now, we got access to this same salvation. And not just Israel in the flesh, but other nations. Because, if you got the same faith as faithful Abraham, whether you Jew or Gentile or Ham, you still can receive the same common salvation. But it all starts from where you believe in how father of our faith did, Abraham. That's the step. So let's look at this Genesis 26, and we're going to read 1 through 5. Genesis 26, 1 through 5. Go ahead and read it, bro.
And there was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, to Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of.
So the Lord is speaking to Isaac now. He's dealing with Isaac, the son of Abraham. So we saw is that what? Abraham had Ishmael as well. But we see is that the covenant didn't go to Ishmael. We didn't read that. But we understand is that the covenant didn't go to Ishmael. The covenant went to Isaac. Because Ishmael was what? Of a bondwoman. So Ishmael didn't receive the covenant. Now guess what? He can take hold of the covenant. But the covenant didn't go through him. He went to Isaac. So that's what we're dealing with right now. So the Lord is saying what? And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. So we dealing with Isaac at this point. What is it in verse 2? Read that again.
And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of.
Go ahead.
Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and perform them the oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father.
So we're going all the way back to Genesis chapter 9. Let's keep that in mind. Is that Genesis chapter 9 has some relevance in this class. Because all the way in Genesis 9, it was talking about the land being inherited unto Shem in the very beginning before Abraham got on the scene. So now we're seeing it all play out. Now we see that what? It started with Abraham, now it's being passed to Isaac. But guess what was inside the covenant? The possession of the land. That was inside the covenant as well. We understand that circumcision was there also, but possession of the land was there as well. So God is not going back on the covenant. He's letting Isaac know, guess what? Dwell in this land, and I will give all these countries, and I will perform an oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. Verse 4.
And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven.
Go ahead.
And I will give thee unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed.
And we're going to understand is that, when Lord said, and I will give all the stars of heaven, yes, Israel was a number great in multitude. But it was also pointing to others as well. You know, it was also pointing to others as, guess what? You know, they're going to be stars under heaven as well. Because guess what? They're going to have the same faith as our forefather Abraham had. So we see that what? The Lord said, and will give unto thy seed all these countries. And in thy seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed. You see that? Like through Israel, all the nations of the earth are going to be blessed. So you got to realize, like, how are you out here teaching that salvation is only for Israel? The scripture is clearly saying is that all nations are going to be blessed through Israel. So that means other nations can receive the same common salvation. But what does it say in verse 5 though? Read that.
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice.
You see that? This is why, you know, the covenant, for the most part, was established with Abraham. Because Abraham obeyed his voice, and what else?
And kept my charge, my commandments, and my statutes, and my laws.
So Abraham kept the laws, statutes, and commandments of God. You know, he toted the same ball and chain, or he toted the same ball and chains as we are. You know, he was doing the will of God. You know, he took his first son to be sacrificed unto God. He didn't even hesitate on it. So in other words, like, that's when God knew that Abraham was the one. So he says that, it says, because that Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Let's go over to Genesis 28. Genesis 28. And let's pick up at verse 10. Genesis 28 and verse 10. When you get it, go ahead and take off, bro.
And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went to Haran.
So now we're looking at Isaac's son, Jacob. And we see that what? The covenant went from Abraham to Isaac. Now we're looking at Isaac passing it on to Jacob. So we see that it says what? And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. Go ahead, verse 11.
And lighted upon a certain place, and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of the place, and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it, and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac, the land whereon thou liest. To thee will I give it, and to thy seed, and thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth.
So thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth. You know, that's what the Lord is saying pertaining to, you know, Abraham's seed. You know, now he's telling Isaac that, you know, I'm going to give this land for possession. And he said what? And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth. What else is it?
And thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south.
So this is how your seed is going to spread. You know, you're the dust of the earth. So you're going to go north, south, east, and west. What else say, bro?
In thee, and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
You see, like, God isn't changing. We see a pattern here, right? We're gonna go inside of the covenant here in a second. But we're looking at the covenant made with Abraham. Now it's passed to Isaac. Now we're seeing it pass unto Jacob. And the same cause is playing out. Nothing has changed. God has not altered his covenant. God is still saying the same thing that he said unto Abram, whose now name is Abraham, a father of many nations. So now we see is that what? Abraham, your covenant is going to be established with him. You're going to be a father of many nations. You're going to circumcise your child on the 8th day. And I'm going to give this land for everlasting possession. And guess what? Abraham kept these commandments. So now we see what? Isaac dealt the same hand. Now we're looking at Jacob being dealt the same hand. So we see is that what? In 14, at the top of 15, and behold, I'm with thee. And will keep, at the bottom of 14. And in thee, and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. 15.
And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places where thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land. For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of.
Go ahead.
And Jacob awake out of his seed. And he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not.
And this is why, Solomon. Solomon came up with why we open and close out facing Jerusalem. Because the Lord's eyes and ears are at that location. So even with Jacob, he in the land. He's like, man, surely God is in this place. So he said what? He said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. Like, he didn't even know it. So even through this vision that God had showed him pertaining to covenant that he established with his father was Isaac, but it began with his granddaddy, Abraham. This is where it began at. So even Jacob in the land, he knew that God was in the land. Skip down to verse 20 and read that.
And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on.
So Jacob, he putting on the table, guess what? I'm a vow, God. See, we got to understand that even vow, when you're making a vow with God, you got to realize you got to pay up. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be backpedaling on your vow. We're going to see that inside the covenant. But even looking at Jacob, Jacob vowed the vow, and then he said, you know what? If you feed me and clothe me, what else he'll do in verse 21?
So that I come again to my father's house in peace. Then shall the Lord be my God.
You see that? Then shall the Lord be my God. If you feed me and you clothe me, I come again to my father's house in peace. Then shall the Lord be my God. Verse 22.
And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that shall give me, I will surely give a tenth unto thee.
You see that? Even Jacob, the Lord blessing his hand, Jacob said, hey, I'm going to give you a tenth. Whatever you increase me with, I'm going to give you a tenth of it. So we see is that Jacob vowed a vow, saying, hey man, you feed me and you clothe me. I come into my father's house in peace. You're going to be the God that I'm going to serve. Let's go over to Genesis 35. Genesis 35, we're going to pick it up at verse 9. And what we're going to understand is that, the covenant between God and man, we're looking at it right now, but now it's going to carry all the way over into our time. But it's going to be a process. It's going to be a process with inside of this covenant. With inside of this covenant, we're going to get to it. We're going to realize, it ain't just a covenant between God and man that you make with your mouth. Now you got to put some actions with your words. That's what we're going to realize. So let's look at Genesis 35 and let's pick up at verse 9. When you get it, go ahead and tell, bro.
And God appeared to Jacob again when he came out of Padan and blessed him. And God said unto him, thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel.
So now the Lord has changed Jacob's name to Israel. Before this point where Jacob was wrestling with an angel, and the angel, said, hey, your name ain't no longer be Jacob, it's going to be Israel. So now this he goes back. You look on your maps. You look at an older map. Africa was called the land of Ham at one point in time. When you look at Jerusalem, it was literally Canaan. Before they came out with the Suez Canal, that's what separated, Israel from the southern part of Egypt. But we can understand is that when we see in this class is that when the Lord changed Jacob's name to Israel, of course it ties to the children of Israel, but even when you look at the land Israel today, it was actually called the land of Canaan. It was inhabited by Canaanites, which would be the seed of Ham. We're going to see all that in the class. But we look at, the significance behind, even why the Lord changed Jacob's name to Israel. It has more to do with than just the land being named after Israel. But we see right now is that what? The Lord said, thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. Finish that up, bro.
And he called his name Israel.
And he called his name Israel. Keep going though.
And God said unto him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins.
And kings are going to come out of our loins. Like, this class could have been longer than what it is, but, didn't want to go into the detail of the kings, because David them came out. Saul them came out of this lineage. Solomon. There was kings that came out. That's what the Lord is saying right here in the very beginning. Is that now your name is going to be Israel. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee. And kings shall come out of thy loins. What is that in verse 12?
In the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, to thee I will give it. And to thy seed after thee will I give the land.
See, you got to realize this land has a great significance, brothers and sisters. Because even today is a glimpse of how the land will be when it's inhabited by Jesus and his kingdom set. It's just a small glimpse. Because you're not going to see people pulling up at Applebee's. You're not going to see any of that. You're not going to see, people checking in and out of hotels. You're not going to see. What you're going to be seeing is righteousness throughout the whole earth. What we see is that, when the Lord is giving this land as possession, this is the city of great king. This is where he is going to establish his government. It's going to be set up in this land. So Lord is like, hey, look here, verse 12, and the land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed after thee, and I will give the land. Let's go over to Exodus 19. See, we're going to fast forward a little bit because, in between from this point, Israel went into Egypt. 70 souls. And then what? They came bond women and bond men. So, they cried out to the Lord, but even that was shown unto Abraham in a dream. Talking about how Israel was going to be in captivity for 400 years. That was talking about in the land of Egypt, not today in America. Nah, it was talking about Egypt. So even, God had spoken to Abraham pertaining to Israel going into captivity. So Israel went into captivity. They went into Egypt, 70 souls. Joseph died. The new Pharaoh came on the scene, didn't even acknowledge Joseph and his family. So they went to bondage. So now the Lord, he parted the whole sea for the nation of Israel. He loosed them from the hands of Pharaoh. So now we going into Exodus 19 because, immediately when he brought Israel out of Egypt, this is when Israel became a nation. So you got to realize before this point, God was just dealing with per individual. But Abraham was the beginning of all of that. He was the beginning of the nation, or the birth of a nation. So now we're going to actually see the nation come out of Egypt. And God is going to continue with this covenant that he had already established with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he's going to pick back up this covenant in Exodus 19. So let's pick it up at 19 and verse 1. 19 verse 1. When you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they to the wilderness of Sinai, where they were parted from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount.
So Israel, they camped before the mount, Mount Sinai. But this was before they went into the land. So you're going to realize, even throughout the course of the class, when the Lord come back and gather Israel, he ain't going to let them to go right into the land. Nah, he's going to take them into the wilderness. So we're going to see the same process that's going on with the forefathers right now. It's going to take place even when the Lord return and gather the nation of Israel from the four corners of the earth. It's not going to change. He's going to do the same process as to what he's already done with our forefathers. So we see that what? The Lord took the nation of Israel out of Egypt and took them into the wilderness. So it says in the bottom of verse 2, and it says, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. Verse 3.
And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say unto the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I buried you on the eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself.
Go ahead.
Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
So you see that verse 5 says what? If you obey my voice indeed. What did God say pertaining to Abraham in what? Genesis 26 and verse 5. It says Abraham obeyed my voice. He kept my commandments, my law, statutes, and judgments. So that's the beginning of your process. You being obedient, obeying the voice of the Lord. But then it also says that what? And if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant. See, this is the same covenant that was given to Abram, who's now Abraham. The same exact covenant. So God is now presenting this covenant to the nation of Israel as a whole. And he's saying what? That if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then guess what? You're going to be a peculiar treasure. That means you're going to be a treasure that's very rare on the market. You can't buy this. You're going to be, more rare than platinum. Even though platinum ain't even rare anymore. But you're going to be just that precious. So we see is that God said, you're going to be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. What it says in verse 6? Read that.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and a holy nation.
You see that? This is the duty that's now given to a nation of people. Is that we can't be priests each other. Not according to what God said pertaining to Abraham, is that you are going to be a blessing to all nations. Like, how am I going to be a priest to this brother? Nah, because we are the same nation. Nah, we got to be priests to all nations. But the Lord said, guess what? You're going to be a priest, a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. And what else it said?
These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel.
Verse 7.
And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him.
Now check out what the nations say. Verse 8.
And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord hath spoken, he will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the
So
Lord.
you see that? Like, they vowed a vow. That's what they did. They just fixed their mouths and they said, you know what? And we're going to do it. And that's why the world is in the condition that it's in right now. It's because Israel dropped the ball. They went in captivity, then started picking up other doctrines, and now look at the world upside down. So we see is that what? They vowed the vow unto God, saying, hey man, all these words that you've given us, we will do it. They vowed the vow so much as they vowed in blood. Let's go look at it. Exodus 24. They put blood on it. See, you got to realize, like, there's no nation that established a covenant with God with blood. Like, no, that's what occurred with a man and a woman. When they come together, they exchange blood. That's what makes them one. So even with that same analogy pertaining to God and the nation of Israel, this blood right here sealed the deal. Like, there's no backing out. So now we can understand why, you know, the so-called Negro is going through the hell that he's going through. It's because we lied. That's what we did. We lied and we decided to take hold of other gods. That's what we did. So now, look at the condition of the world. You know, we are the ones to blame for that. But, you know, we are screaming on each corner. We're not saying that. You know, the first thing we want to say is like, nah, you can't get salvation. Nah, you can't get salvation. How you know you got salvation? You know, but yet, you're not even speaking on why the world is under the condition it's under. It's because the nation lied and they didn't uphold their end of the bargain. So let's look at this blood covenant that sealed the bargain. Exodus 24, and let's pick it up at verse 3. Exodus 24, when you get it, go ahead and read, bro.
And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord, and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord hath said will we do.
You see that? We will do. We're going to do it, Moses. Verse 4.
And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and rose up early in the morning, and built an altar under the hill, and the 12 pillars according to 12 tribes of Israel.
Go ahead.
And he sent young men of children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord.
So that 12 tribes, that came out of Jacob. You know, we didn't get to that point because we realized that covenant was already established with Jacob from his daddy Isaac, where it began that with his granddaddy Abraham. We already understood that point. So out of Jacob came the 12 tribes. So that's why, you know, Moses, he didn't get away from that. He made 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. So we see is that it said in verse 5, and he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings, sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto the Lord. Verse 6.
And Moses took half of the blood and put it in the basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar.
Go ahead.
And he took the book of covenant and read in the audience of the people.
You see that? Like, he took the blood, put it in the basin, but before he sprinkled the people, guess what he did? He read them the book. You know, he read them the Bible. It's kind of like when you get married. You know, it's like, you know, until death do us part. The man say I do, the woman say I do. Well, we look at the same process. You know, so we see is that what? The Lord is saying that what? And Moses took half of the blood and put it in the basin, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. So he took the blood, sprinkled the altar, and then he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said what?
And that the Lord hath said we will do and be obedient.
You see that? They said they're going to do it and be obedient. Verse 8.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words.
So the Lord made this covenant with the nation of Israel pertaining to these words, but guess how he sealed the covenant? With this blood. See, you got to realize this is a small significance behind even us when we come into this baptism. You know, when you look at Exodus chapter 12, it tells you about how what? You're going to take blood and put it up over the doorpost of your house. But guess what? We represent the house. That's why when you look at dwelling in booths, you know, our physical body would be the booth. So now today, when you come up under the blood of Jesus, what? you put his blood over your door, which is your body. That's what it's representing. But that's how we are, establishing or becoming a part of this covenant today. So we see the same thing, or the same pattern that was done with the nation of Israel when God established his covenant with the nation. He took blood, sprinkled the altar. He read the book of the covenant to the people in the audience. Then they agreed to it. He sprinkled them with blood. Then we see what? It says, which the Lord had made with you concerning all these words. What say? That's the end of that. Let's go over there. No, I'm sorry. Skip down to verse 12 and read that.
And the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tablets of stone, and a law and commandment which I have written, that thou mayest teach them.
You see that? This is inside of that covenant. Like, it didn't get away from Abraham. What we saw is that Abraham kept commandments, so it didn't just stop with him. You know what I mean? Like, it's with us as well. So even inside of this covenant, we've already established that what? You got to circumcise your male child on the 8th day. God is going to give you a land for everlasting possession. And we also see that what? The Lord established a nation of people to turn all the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve back unto the Most High. But how you going to do that? With these commandments. So that's what God is telling Moses. He wrote these commandments on stone, and he said, hey, go down and teach these people. Because what? These are my priests. This is the holy nation that's going to turn all these nations back serving God. But it all ties back to, Abraham being a blessing to all nations. Right? Let's go to Acts chapter 7 real quick. Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. We following so good? We good? Everybody understand? Mm-hmm. I mean, it ain't complex. Mm-hmm. I take that back. I take the statement back. I don't know, it could be, but I just want to make sure that, it's registered, that's all. So let's look at this Acts chapter 8. I'm sorry, Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7. Let's read it on this verse 37. Acts chapter 7 and verse 37. When you get it, go and take off, bro.
This that Moses, which said unto the children of Israel, a prophet shall the Lord your God raise up to you of your brethren, like unto me. Him shall ye hear.
So him shall ye hear. Guess what we talking about? Jesus. This goes all the way back to what? Deuteronomy 18. Pertaining to, Moses talking about a prophet was going to be raised up like unto him. Him shall ye hear. Verse 38.
This is he that was in the church in the wilderness.
So this is he. Who? Jesus. Mm-hmm. Who in the church in the wilderness? Go ahead.
With the angel who spake to him in the Mount of Sinai.
So this tell you all the way back to the beginning. Who was talking to Moses in the Mount Sinai? Jesus. It tells you that clearly in verse 38. So it's saying what? With the angel which spake to him in the Mount Sinai, what?
And our fathers who received the likely oracles to give to us.
That's what we just saw in Exodus 34. The oracles are the answers of God. Let's go to Romans chapter 9 real quick. The oracles are the answers of God, because what we're doing is we just building this picture. You know what I mean? Like, we look at this picture and we trying to put it in its proper perspective. You know what I mean? So we already can understand is that, Abraham is the father by faith. Through his seed, all nations are going to be blessed. The covenant is going to pass through his seed. So now we see is that what? The covenant has been established with his seed. So now his seed is doing the business of God. So we see is that what? In the Acts chapter 7, it said that what? The oracles was given unto our forefathers to teach unto us. So now let's look at this Romans and let's see, what the oracles are. Because it's a service. It's a job, that's, appointed to a people. So let's look at it. Romans chapter 9, and let's read 1 through 5. When you get it, you can read, bro.
I say the truth in Christ. I lie not.
So Paul is like, man, I ain't lying. I say the truth in Christ. What else?
My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost.
So even my conscience, is bearing witness of the Holy Ghost. What's saying verse 2?
That I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart.
Go ahead.
For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh.
So his brethren is according to the flesh, not the spirit. The flesh. He's talking about his flesh blood brothers. For what?
who are Israelites,
Go ahead.
to whom pertain the adoption.
So this is, the offices, or this is the jobs that's given to the Israelites. Now, yes, we understand all Israel ain't Israel. Like, we get it, because you keep living a little while, you'll realize, that he Israel in the flesh, but he preaching falsehood. Even the ones that know a little bit of Bible, like, they preaching falsehood. So we can understand is that why Paul, even said what he said in verse 3. He said, "For I wish that myself were accursed from Christ, my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites who pertain to adoption." Go ahead.
In the glory, in the covenants, in the giving out law, in the service of God, and the promises.
So it says, and the giving of the law, and the services of God, and the promises. Like, this was all given to a nation of people, but this nation of people is supposed to turn back all the other nations unto serving God. That's why it says what? Giving of the law and the service of God. So what's inside of this service? The adoption, the glory, the covenants. That's what's inside of this services of God. What does it say in verse 5 though?
Who are the fathers, in whom, as concerning the flesh, Christ came.
So Christ came out of this same Israelites. He came out of it. That's what it says in verse 5. Whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Christ came. Go ahead.
Who is over all, God blessed forever.
Let's go to Isaiah 49 now. Isaiah 49, because we see is that what? The oracles are given to the nation of Israel. But we can't just hold the oracles in our back pocket and sit on them. Nah, because even Jesus says something pertaining to that, giving you gifts, and you go and put your gift in the ground, they're gonna cast you into hell. So you can't sit on these oracles and just, I'm good, like I'm the priest of God. That's that. Nah, you gotta be performing the services. That's what we saw in Romans chapter 9. Like, pertaining to the adoption, the giving of the law, covenants, like all of that is to be done through the Israelites. So let's look at this Isaiah 49. Let's pick it up at verse 1. Isaiah 49. Let's pick it up at verse 1. Because, we ain't leaving nobody behind. Because, God never said that. So you got to understand is that, like, God had a plan all the way in the very beginning for all nations. We can understand that, the Lord told Israel not to be amongst the uncircumcision. Like, we get that. But still, though, like, God had a plan for other nations to get this same common salvation all the way in the beginning. But it stands on your faith, though. Like, you got to have the same faith. You can't have, faith of the contrary. No, it has to be the same. So let's look at this Isaiah 49, and let's pick it up at verse 1. Isaiah 49 and verse 1. Go ahead and read it, bro.
Listen, all unto me, and hearken ye people from far. The Lord hath called me from the womb, from the bowels of my mother. Hath he made mention of my name, and he hath made my mouth like a sharp sword.
And this talking about Jesus. I don't ran across people who say this, this talking about them. The Lord called them from the mother's womb. I'm like, what? Like, nah, this talking about Jesus. This is the one that, he called from the bowels of his mother. Have he made mention of my name? But what it say in verse 2?
And he hath made my mouth a sword. In the shadow of his hand hath he hid me, and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver hath he hid me.
So he made, Jesus what? A polished shaft. His mouth like a sharp sword. Verse 3.
He said unto me, Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified.
So Jesus is the one that's going to be glorified. But what? Israel is his servant. What is it in verse 4 though?
And I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for naught, and in vain. Yet surely my judgment is with me, the Lord, and my work with my God.
So this Jesus talking about, how he's labored in vain because what? Read verse 5.
And now, saith the Lord, that formed from me the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him, from Israel be not gathered.
So though Israel be not gathered, that's letting you know that, like, the Lord at this point has labored in vain because Israel is not yet gathered. So we understand what? It says that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered. Go ahead.
Yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Lord.
Go ahead.
My God shall be my strength.
Verse 6.
And he said, Is it a light thing that thou should be my servant?
It is a light thing that thou should be my servant. Go ahead.
To raise up the tribes of Jacob.
Go ahead.
And to restore the preserved of Israel.
So he said it's a light thing, to raise up the tribes of Israel. In other words, it's a light thing, not saying that it's a bad thing, but for me to go out and bring Israel in the church. Like, that's a light thing. What else to say?
I will all give thee for a light to the Gentiles.
So this is, you bringing other nations into the church. Because the Lord said what? He going to be a light into the Gentiles. That means salvation is granted across the board. We can understand that God established the covenant, the giving of the law, the oracles unto the nation of Israel. But guess what? We are to be a light unto the Gentiles. The Lord is saying, man, it's a light thing to bring in Israel. I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. But no, we should be able to be fishermen of all men. So we see is that even the Lord saying what? I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles. And what else?
That thou mayest keep my salvation unto the end of the earth.
You see that? Going all the way back to Abraham. This is what the Lord was referring to, pertaining to how all the families of the earth are going to be blessed. Because now, the Lord has set up this covenant. Inside of this covenant, guess what? You can be granted everlasting life. But it's done with this process, with this formula. Let's go to Matthew 28. Let's look at a little bit more detail. Matthew 28. And let's read 18 through 20. Matthew 28, 18 through 20. When you get, go ahead and take off.
And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, All power is given to me in heaven and in earth.
Go ahead.
Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.
So the Lord is saying what? Go ye therefore and teach all nations. Like the Lord didn't just subject Israel to teaching Israel. Nah, he said teach all nations. Baptizing them in the name of Jesus. Because that's what it's saying, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Those are just titles, but we know you baptizing them in the name of Jesus. And what it saying in verse 20?
Teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world.
Let's go over to Acts chapter 10 now. Little Landon. Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 10. And let's pick it up at verse 1. Acts 10 and verse 1. Go ahead and read it, bro.
There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band,
Go ahead.
a devout man, and one who feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to people and prayed to God always.
So Cornelius, he was of the Italian band, but guess what he did? He took care of the people. He gave much alms. That's what it's talking about. But we see where this is going at, right? We see how this is going from Abraham to Israel as a nation to now being a light to the Gentiles. This is all stretched inside of the covenant, which is a blood covenant. Not just established or was established with the nation of Israel, but guess what? When you take on the same commonwealth, you're going to be under the same blood covenant as well. So that's what we're looking at. We see is that what? Now we looking at how the word is now accessible to all nations. So we see is that in Acts chapter 10, we dealing with Cornelius. And Cornelius was, a devout man. That's what it's going to say in the next verse. Go ahead and read it.
A devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always.
You see that? He prayed to God always. Like, why can't he receive the same salvation, as, those that are of the circumcision or those that are Israel in the flesh? Shh. Why can't he receive the same common salvation? He should be able to if he, fear God and take care of the people. I mean, he's showing some type of charity. But what is saying in verse 3 though?
He saw in a vision, evidently, about the ninth hour of the day, an angel of God coming into him, and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid, and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for memorial before God.
Go ahead.
And now send men to Joppa, and call for one Simon, and whose sure name is Peter, who lodged with one Simon at Tanar, whose house is by the seaside, and he shall tell thee what thou ought to do.
So, he told Cornelius to go and find Peter. He lodged with, Simon Peter. He's a tanner, or Simon a tanner. But he told him to go to Joppa. Skip down to verse 9 and read that.
And on the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour.
So we see that Peter, he on the housetop praying. And what else it say? Verse 10.
And he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance.
So he's hungry, so he fell into a trance. Verse 11.
And saw heaven and open, and a certain vessel descending unto him, and it's as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners, and laid down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and of wild beasts, and creeping things, and the fowls of the air.
So the Lord is showing Peter a vision. A vision of unclean animals. That's vision that he's showing Peter. But this vision has a significance to it. We're going to see what it's talking about because, people usually come here to, try and, justify the dietary law, why we can eat anything we want. Nah, if you get some understanding and realize, the Lord is just now showing through Cornelius that salvation has now been granted to all nations. That's what this is talking about. So it has nothing to do with, I can eat unclean foods now if I like. Nah. He's just showing him unclean animals because, at a point in time, the uncircumcision was considered to be unclean. Right. That's it. So now, he's breaking down the middle wall petition. That's what he's doing at this point. So he says that he showed him in the vision all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth and wild beasts and creeping things and fowls of the air. What is it in verse 13?
And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, and kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
So much for this being a dietary law. Peter's holding on to the dietary law. He's like, nah, I never ate anything, that's common or unclean. But the Lord ain't showing him food. The Lord is showing him man. Skip down to verse 20 and read that. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, Ye know how that is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation.
So Peter's addressing those that, with Cornelius. Oh, that was with Cornelius. So he's addressing them. And he's like, hey, this ain't our custom to keep company with other nations. He said, how that is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come to one of another nation. Go ahead.
But God showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean.
So I shouldn't call man common or unclean. Not the food. He showed them the vision pertaining to man. That now man, if they, or the nations, if they fear God and keeping his commandments, how you going to call them unclean? They are willing to serve your God the way it's written. They're willing to do so. So he sees that now, the Lord has allowed salvation to be granted. But we saw that all in the beginning. We just look at the process. As to how it got to this point. Because salvation was going to be granted to other nations. Because if it was just granted to Israel, only the kingdom would be short. You know what I mean? It'll be a few people saved. It truly will. Because when you look at Revelation chapter 7, the Lord said, mark 12,000 out of each tribe. That's only 144,000 people. You know what I mean? I understand the multitude that no man could number, but I'm talking about Israel as a nation. That's only 144,000 that was marked. So if it was just salvation for Israel only, we'll have a shortage in the kingdom. We truly will. But we see that now the Lord has showed Peter not to call man common or unclean. Let's go to Ephesians real quick. Because this all is inside of this covenant. All of it. The full process and how we look at it. But ultimately the covenant is that you come under the blood of Jesus, first of all, renew your mind and knowledge. You know, renew your mind and knowledge. Come up under this blood, hold fast all the way to the end. Guess what? You'll receive everlasting life. That's what you'll receive. Not only everlasting life, you'll be able to inhabit the land. That's what you'll be able to do. Let's look at Ephesians chapter 2. And let's pick up at verse 11. Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 11. When you get it, go ahead and take it off.
Wherefore, remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision, by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh, made by hands.
So we see is that what Paul is addressing Gentiles. You know, and Gentiles who was what? In the flesh, who are called uncircumcision. Because that's what they was called. That's why Peter said what he said, that it's unlawful for us to, being a Jew, to even be amongst other nations. So now we see that what? Picking back up the same conversation, now Paul is addressing that. Because we saw in Isaiah 46, we saw in what? Isaiah 49, is that the Lord said what? He is going to make Israel a light to the Gentiles. So we look at that process. We see that what? The Lord showed Peter not to call mankind or unclean. Now Paul is picking back up the same conversation. Because the Lord set Paul to be a light to Gentiles. Mm-hmm. So we see is that what? It says in what? In verse 11, it says that, wherefore remember that ye being time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh, made by hands. Verse 12.
That at the time ye were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel.
And the word aliens, because they didn't have Christ. Like, you didn't have the commonwealth or salvation. So it says what? Being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. And what else?
And strangers from covenant of promise.
Go ahead.
Having no hope, and without God in the world.
You see that? Like this, you know, a lot of jakes try to come here to say that this is talking about Israel and Israel only. Mm-hmm. As to what we saw in Genesis, Genesis is pointing all the way to this. Mm-hmm. Genesis is letting you know, it's that like, yeah, you know, these nations will receive salvation. But it has to go through the process. Mm-hmm. You know, we just dealt with the process. So we see is that even, it says what? Yeah, it was aliens from the commonwealth. Well, we know Israel wasn't aliens from the commonwealth because we saw that in the beginning. God passed from Abraham to Isaac, from Isaac to Jacob. And then what? He made it a covenant with the nation when they came out of Egypt. So this can't be talking about Israel when not. Israel had already had this common salvation in the very beginning of the class. So you can realize there's a lot of foolishness being taught out there, wanted to, you know, keep Israel as salvation and salvation only to Israel. Like, nah. Because like I was just saying, it would be a shortage if that was the case. So we see that what it says, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenant of promises, having no hope without God in the world. Verse 13.
But now, in Christ Jesus, ye who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Christ.
You see that now you are made near. That's why Jesus said what he said in Matthew 28. He said, go and baptize all nations, or teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of Jesus. But we see is that what? It says that's what made them near now, through the blood of Christ. Keep reading, verse 14.
For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and hath broken down the middle wall of partition.
You see that? He's the one that made, you know, us near on one, and he's breaking down the middle wall of partition. How did he do that? Through his blood. The same blood that, you know, Israel got sprinkled with when they said, you know, all these words we will do. Then they got sprinkled with blood. The same blood manner. You know, when you come up under the commonwealth of Jesus, the one who died for not the sins of Israel, but for the sins of the world. So when you come up under that blood, guess what? The middle wall of petition has now been broken down. Because now you receive this same kind of salvation. You can get it now. What is saying 15 though?
Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of the commandments contained in the ordinance.
And those laws contained in those laws of commandments contained in the ordinances was what? The Jews couldn't be amongst other nations. That was a law. That's why Peter said when he said, you know, it's unlawful. But now through Christ, you know, shedding blood for the sins of the world, guess what? He's broken down the middle wall petition. What else to say, bro?
For to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace.
Verse 16.
And that he might reconciled both unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby.
You see that? He has now reconciled all of us. You know what I mean? Like, that's the beauty of this. Like, you serious? Like, what kind of God you serve if all he's coming to do is just save one nation? Like, nah, God is just not God over Israel only. Like, nah, he's God over Israel and the Jews. I'm sorry, Israel and the Greeks. Israel and Ham. He's God over them all. So it's kind of like you put God inside a box and you say, oh, he's just God over Israel and Israel only. Like, seriously? Like, that's God you serve? Nah, the God I serve is God over all men. That's what we're looking at right here. So we see is that even God, he abides in his flesh. When he died for the sins of the world, he has now reconciled us unto God. What does it say? Skip down to verse 19 and read. No, I'm sorry, keep reading. Verse 16. You read that, I'm sorry, read 19.
And came and preached peace to you, which were afar off, and to them that were not. For through him we both had access by one Spirit unto the Father.
You read
Now,
19?
yeah. For through him we both have access.
No, 19. Okay, yeah, read 19. Yeah, my bad.
Now therefore, ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with saints in the household of God.
So now you fellow citizens. You are now joint heirs to receive this same salvation. Let's go over to Romans chapter 4. Romans chapter 4. Let's get up at verse 11. Romans chapter 4 and 11, when you get in Hebrew, take off.
And he received the sign of the circumcision, a seal of righteousness of the faith which he had yet being uncircumcised, that he might be the father of all them that believe, though they not be circumcised, their righteousness might be imputed unto them.
You see that? We talk about Abraham. You know, that's what verse 9 was covering. Talking about Abraham is, guess what? He received the covenant when he wasn't circumcised. You know what I mean? So Paul is really getting at, like, you know, whether you circumcised or uncircumcised, like, that ain't going to get you good with God. Nah, it's a little more to it than just that. So practically, and you know that, like, other nations can get it as well if they got the same mindset as you do. So that's why he said what? In verse 11, and he received the sign of circumcision, the seal of righteousness of the faith. That's what we saw with the book of Genesis. We saw that God said you need to circumcise your male child on the 8th day. Or better yet, you need to be circumcised. Guess what? That's the token of righteousness. That's what that is. So he says that it says, which he had yet being uncircumcised. Like, he received that before he physically circumcised himself, that he might be the father of all them that believe, though they be not circumcised. You see that? Like, if they ain't circumcised, but though they believe, like, they can still be of righteousness. That's what it said. It says that righteousness might be imputed unto them all. Because what? They have the same belief as Abraham. Yeah, we know that works come with that. That's why we read Genesis 28, 1 through 5. Let you know is that, okay, we understand Abraham is the father of our faith, but guess what? He became the father of our faith is because he obeyed God's word. He kept his covenants, his laws, his statutes. So we get it. But what we're looking at is that, man, just because you're of another nation, you still get granted the same salvation. That's what we're reading here. What is it in verse 12, though?
And the father of circumcision, to them who were not of circumcision only, but who also walk in the steps of the faith of our father Abraham.
You see that? Like, if you walk in the same steps as, you know, faith of Abraham, then guess what? You are of the circumcision. That's what you are, because what? You have the same faith of the same mindset as Abraham did. Keep reading though.
Which he had yet being yet uncircumcised.
So he wasn't even circumcised. But God counted righteousness in him. God established this covenant with him, and he wasn't even physically circumcised. So why is it that, you know, somebody who's not circumcised can't be granted the same salvation? That's foolishness, man. Like, it's time out for all of that. You know, because we in the latter days, brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? We in the latter days, there's too much at stake for you to be trying to cast people off from God. Nah, you can't do that because it's not biblical. It isn't. So he says that what? It says in the bottom of the top of verse 13 for the promise. I'm sorry, the bottom of 12, it says, but who also walk in the steps that faith of our father Abraham, which he had being yet uncircumcised. Read 13.
For the promise that he should be the heir of the world was not to Abraham or to his seed through the law, but through the righteousness of faith.
You see that? Like, it wasn't given to him because of the law. It was given to him because of faith. It's because when God told him, hey man, take your first begotten son and kill him. Like, he didn't hesitate. He didn't be like, oh God, you know what? That's my first son. I don't really want to do that. Like, nah, he did it. He hearkened to the voice of the Lord. You know, and as he was going through the process, that's what made him right in the eyes of God. Like we saw in Genesis 17, the Lord had already said, walk before me and be thou perfect. So he gave him this process that he needed to follow. The same thing is given unto us. We are given this process to follow. So guess what? You can be walking before God and being righteous. But you got to keep this process that he's giving you. You have to. So we see is that what? Dealing with Abraham, we see is that what? He was not to Abraham, verse 13, for the promise that he should be the heir of the world. Not through the law, but through his faith. What is saying 14 though?
For if they which are of the law be heirs, faith is made void, and the promise made of none effect.
You see that if this is all done through the law, then, you know, faith is made void and the promise is made of none effect. But what is saying 15 though?
Because the law worketh wrath. For where no law is, there is no transgression.
16.
Therefore, it is of faith that it might be by the grace to the end of promise, might be sure to all the seed, not to that only which is of the law, but to that also which is of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all.
You see that? Who is the father of us all? Let's go to Isaiah 56. Isaiah 56. We're going to pick up at verse 1. Isaiah 56. Verse 1.
Thus saith the Lord, keep ye judgment, and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed.
You see that? Like, you know, the Lord's salvation is near you guys. You know, and his righteousness to be revealed. This is why you got to hold fast all into the end. Like you have to, because, man, this clock running out. You know, it's about to expire. What I mean by that is, you know, them heavens finna roll back. So you gotta keep this in mind. You know, this covenant that we deal with, you gotta hold it all the way into the end. You know, you gotta tote your ball and chain all the way past the finish line. You can't give up in the middle of the fight. Because it says, what? Thus saith the Lord, keep ye judgment and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Verse 2.
Blessed is the man that doeth this, and the Son of Man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing evil.
So it says, blessed is the man. It didn't say blessed is the Israelite. It says the man. Letting you know that, like, you know, the guy that just walked down this hallway, if he decided to take hold of this covenant and start keeping the commandments, the Lord is saying he is blessed. And that's with anybody across the board. So he says that what? It says, blessed is the man that do this, and the Son of Man that lay hold on it. What is saying in verse 3 though?
Neither let the son of the stranger that have joined himself to the Lord speak, saying, the Lord hath utterly separated me from his people.
You see that? Like, you can't even make the stranger feel as if like he's been utterly separated. Because it's not our call to do it. Like, I can't separate somebody and be like, nah, you cut off. You can't do that. You know, that's the issue with those that be out on the corner screaming at people. Is that they cut people off. They can't do that. They have no power to do that because God just made us seed and water, man. That's all he made us. That's it. We just seed and water when it comes to the word. Yeah, the covenant was made with the nation of Israel, but I don't have no hell to put you in or no heaven to put you in. That's not my call. So we see that what? It says, neither let the son of the stranger that have joined himself to the Lord speak, saying the Lord hath utterly separated me from his people. Go ahead.
Neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree.
Verse 4.
Thus saith the Lord unto the eunuchs that keep my Sabbaths, and choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant.
You see that? Taking hold of this same covenant that was established with Abraham. That if you take hold of this and please me, what it says in verse 5?
Even unto them will I give mine house, and within my walls a place, and a name better than the sons and the daughters.
You see that? He's going to give a name better than the nation of Israel. Like, name better. What name is that? Keep going.
And I will give them an everlasting name, that shall not be cut off.
That's better than the sons and the daughters. An everlasting name. That's everlasting life. That's what that is, brothers and sisters. Everlasting life that's going to be granted to other nations that want to take hold of this covenant. They will be granted everlasting life. A name that shall never be cut off. Read verse 7, bro. Now skip down to 7. Read that.
Even then will I bring my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon mine altar. For mine house shall be called a house of prayer for all people.
It said all people, right? That's what it said in your Bible, right? So we're not subject to just a nation of people. Like, nah, that's not how the Lord was doing this. That's not how we read this in the days of Abraham. It was never just for a nation of people only. Nah, that's what we saw in Romans chapter 4. Is that if you got the same faith as Abraham, then guess what? You're going to be granted the same salvation. That's what we're looking at in Isaiah 56. The Lord is saying exactly the same thing as to what we read in Romans chapter 4. Letting you know that, guess what? His house shall be a house of prayer for all people. What is saying in verse 8 though?
For the Lord God will gather the outcasts of Israel, saying, Yet will I gather others to him, besides those that are gathered unto him.
You see that? Like he's going to gather others unto the house of Israel. Letting you know is that like inside of this covenant, like other nations are going to be gathered to this word as well. Alright, let's go a little bit further. Let's go over to Mark chapter 16. Mark chapter 16, because we must comprehend this full process. You know, we don't deal with Abraham being the father of our faith. We saw that through Abraham, past to Isaac, past to Jacob, the same covenant is to be established. We saw that what? Inside of the covenant, you got to be circumcised as a male. If you're a baby, you got to be circumcised on the 8th day. Then we also saw us that what? The Lord is going to give the land an everlasting possession. But then, as well inside the covenant, he established the covenant with Jacob's 12 sons. When they came up out of Egypt, he established his covenant, set them up to be a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. Now they're going to be a light unto the Gentiles, bringing other nations into this word as well. So now the middle wall of petition has been abolished through the blood of Christ. So that's not it though. You know, because throughout that whole process, you got to get them sins off your back. So let's look at this Mark 16. Let's look at this Mark 16. And let's pick it up at 15. Mark 16 and 15. You get it? Go ahead and read it, bro.
And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world, and preach the gospel to every creature.
So every creature, you know, that's absolute. That's across the board. You know, that's covering all nations. He said every creature. He ain't talking about no bears and zebras preaching to them. Like, nah. He's talking about every creature which would be mankind. So he said, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. 16.
He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved.
You see that? So if you believe, you're going to be baptized. Then guess what? You shall be saved. Now, we understand according to Matthew 24:13, if you endure all the way until the end, that's when you're going to be saved. But you got a high chance of being saved if you're doing it through this process. Because now, you know, according to what Acts 22, the baptism wash away your past sins. That's what it get rid of. It also strengthens your faith. Because it says what? He that believeth is baptized shall be saved. What else is it?
But he that believe not shall be damned.
You see that? That means you ain't worthy, you don't even get baptized. I don't really need that. You know, that's your mindset, like, it's just water. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to go down to water to be baptized. Guess what? You're damned. Because even me, I know that it's just water. But I do know through the faith that, man, this water is what's going to move my past track record. You know what I mean? However I used to be years and years ago, guess what? That's not going to be mentioned unto God if I keep my integrity all the way into the end. Because what? I went this process by me believing, like Father Abraham. The same setup. But keep going though, verse 17.
And these sons shall
Oh, that's it. Let's go over to My bad. Yeah, let's go over to Psalms 32. So we see what? Hey, if you don't believe, you're going to be damned. This is why you're going to be damned. That's what we can read in Psalms 32. And this is across the board. That's why Jesus said, go and preach to all creatures. All right? So let's read this Psalms 32 and verse 1. Go ahead and read it, bro.
Blessed is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered.
You see that? That's what the baptism does. You know, it's washed away. Your past, you or who you used to be, is all forgotten. Because what? Jesus came and died for your past sins. You know, he put his head on the chopping block for your past sins. Not your future sins, but your past sins. So, guess what he did when he put his head on the chopping block? It says what? Transgressions are forgiven. Then it also said, whose sin is covered. Transgression. I heard myself say it one time. I was saying it kind of like, scream. It's transgression. It's forgiven. Whose sin is covered. What else is in verse 2?
Blessed is the man to whom the Lord imputed not iniquity.
You see that? Like, because now iniquity is not on your shoulders. That's why he said what? Blessed is the man unto whom the Lord impute not iniquity. Meaning, like, iniquity ain't going to be on you because guess what? Christ came and died for your sins. So that's why going all the way back to Mark 16 and 15 is that guess what? If you don't believe in baptized, then you damned. Because what? You still got your iniquity on you. You still got sin on you. So therefore, now you can't be justified unto the Father because you don't see that blood on you. You don't see that blood on your doorpost. As to when you go back and read Exodus chapter 12. He don't see that on you. So now when he returns, what? He killing. That's what he's doing. He's killing. So we see is that what? It says, blessed is the man to whom the Lord impute not iniquity. And what else?
And in whose spirit there is no God.
Let's go over to Matthew chapter 3 now. Matthew chapter 3. Because what we're going to look at in Matthew chapter 3, you know, you've been baptized, what? The cherry on top. You know, that's what it is. It's the cherry on top because guess what you done? You done renewed your mind of knowledge by keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, having the same faith as Abraham. Because what? Your faith is in Jesus. So now what? You taking this walk all the way into the end. But before you even take the walk, you got to first come up on that blood covenant. Now once you come up on that blood covenant, now all your sins have been washed away. Now your garments are white. Now if you keep them all the way into the end, keep your integrity, not take the Lord's name in vain, at the sound of the seventh trumpet, and you're going to get that reward, that possession. You're gonna get to inherit that land. But at that time, you're going to be rolling with Jesus. You're going to be an immortal. But the land ultimately we're going to see is New Jerusalem. You know, that's the everlasting possession that the Lord was referring to all the way in Genesis. So let's look at this Matthew chapter 3, and we still looking at this baptism as to what we started in Mark chapter 16. That you got to do it because this is what's going to save you. Matthew chapter 3, and let's pick it up at 13. Matthew 3 and 13. Go ahead and read it, bro.
Then come Jesus from Galilee to Jordan to John to be baptized of him. But John forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized of thee, and come thou to me.
So John like, man, you coming to me? Like, I can't even unlace your shoelace. But yet you coming to me to be baptized? I need to be baptized of you. What else is it, bro?
And Jesus answering said unto him, Suffer it to be so now, for thus is it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. Then he suffered him.
So this is the fulfillment of all righteousness. Again, you know, ice cream with the cherry on top. That's what this is when it comes to you being baptized. It's because this is the fulfillment. Meaning like, no, it's not here. Like you still got to hold fast to the faith. But what it's saying is that, guess what? You are brand new in the eyes of God. You know how you used to be years ago? Like, that's old news. Like that went down in the grave with Christ. That's what that did. So now you don't came up new as a brand new baby. That's what you are now. So that's why, you know, Jesus is saying, you know, this is the fulfillment of all righteousness. Letting you know it's like, this is it. Because I, even myself, God manifested in the flesh, went through the same process. Not saying that Jesus had sin on him. No, he's just showing you is that this is a process that will take you to the fulfillment of all righteousness. That's what he's saying. But let's go to this Joshua chapter 10, because we forget about land. You know, the land, when it got taken over and it became no longer Canaan but Israel, that's what we're going to look at now. Because now we're looking at, or we have already seen inside this covenant, we have seen that what? Through Abraham, now all nations can be blessed. How is that so? Because Israel is the priest of the Most High God. So what they're doing is they're teaching all nations to turn back to the Lord, to repent, be baptized, keep your integrity all the way to the end. Because then you do so, you're going to get to inhabit this land. So let's go look at it in Joshua. Joshua chapter 10. Joshua chapter 10. And let's pick it up at verse 1. Joshua chapter 10 and verse 1. Will you get it, bro? Go ahead and take off.
Now it came to pass when Adonizedek, Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it. And he said, done to Jericho and her king, so he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them.
So, Gibeon, they had made peace with the nation of Israel because the Lord was with Joshua. You know what I mean? Like the Lord was Joshua was whooping down nations. When they went over the other side of Jordan and they conquered all of them. But the Lord was doing this through Joshua. So now, like all these nations, they sitting back in fear because they see what Israel is doing to all these other nations. So Gibeon, they smart. They went and made peace with Israel and made a league with them. They like, nah, we're going to just go ahead and cool with these people. We're going to make a peace with them. Even though they tricked them into being a league together and being a part of the covenant. But, hey, Joshua had to uphold his word. That's what he had to do. So we see is that at the bottom of verse 1, it says, so he had done to Ai and her king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them. So Gibeon was among Israel. What does it say in verse 2 though?
That they feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, and one of the royal cities, because it was greater than Ai, and all the men thereof were mighty.
So they were scared, because they like, man, Gibeon is a mighty city, but yet they said of Israel, like they made peace with them. So they was afraid because, Gibeon was a more mightier city than Ai. But yet they was like, nah, we're going to make peace with Israel. That's what these other nations saw as they were looking upon all this. What is it in verse 3?
Wherefore Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent unto Hoham, king of Hebron, and unto Piram, king of Jerma, and unto Japha, king of Lachish, and unto Jebri, king of Eglon, saying, come up unto me, and help me, that we may smite Gibeon, for it hath made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel.
So, they conspired, and they like, man, let's get Gibeon, because, they don't make peace with Joshua and Israel. What does it say in verse 5, though?
There were the 5 kings of the Amorites, king of Jerusalem.
You see that? The Amorites are the kings of Jerusalem. Keep that in mind, because you got to realize Jerusalem, of course, to, modern day maps, Jerusalem isn't the capital. They say it's Tel Aviv or something to that effect. But we know is that, Jerusalem is going to be the city of the great king. Jerusalem is the center capital of the world. So we seeing that now is that what? Even, going all the way back to sister question on Q&A some weeks ago about how Trump has acknowledged Jerusalem as the capital. I mean, he do it or he don't do it, it's still going to be the capital. We see things starting to, take its course. But we see is that what? It says in verse 5, it says, therefore, the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem,
the king of Hebron, the king of Jerma, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, gathered themselves together, and went up, they and all their hosts, and encamped before Gibeon, and made war against it. So
they all went up together. They was all confederate together, and they went up against Gibeon to make war. Verse 6.
And the men of Gibeon sent unto Joshua to the camp of Gilgal, saying, slack not thy hand from thy servants. Come up to us quickly, and save us, and help us, while the kings of Amorites dwell in the mountains, and are gathered together against us.
You see that? Like Gibeon was what? A great city. But look, they run into Israel because they know that the Lord is with the nation of Israel. So they're like, hey, you know what? Slack not the hand from thy servants. Come up quickly to save us. Because what? The king of the Amorites, they trying to come against us. Skip down to verse 8 and read that.
And the Lord said unto Joshua, Fear them not, for I have delivered them to thine hand. There shall not a man of them stand before thee.
So the Lord said, hey man, don't be afraid. Fear them not. Guess what? I'll deliver these people into thy hand. Verse 10. Verse 10, go ahead.
The Lord discomfited them for Israel, and slew them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, and chased them along the way that goeth up to Bethron, and smote them Azekah, and unto Makkedah.
Skip down to verse 12, read that.
Then spake Joshua the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou, moon, in the valley of Ajalon.
You see how the Lord was with Joshua? Like, he told the sun, stop. That's what he told me. Hey, you know what? We finna get all these people. We finna kill them all. So he told the sun, he said, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. What is saying 13 though?
And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day.
You see that? Like, it hasted not to go down about the whole day. What is saying 14 though?
And there was no day like that before it, or after it, and that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man. The Lord fought for Israel.
So the Lord fought for Israel, but at this time, what? Joshua went in the land and conquered. Like, he took over the land, so now this land being in possession forever, we looking at it run its course right here. And we see is that what? Joshua, the general for Israel, he went into the land and whooped down many nations. And now this land now is no longer the land of Canaan, or no longer of the Amorites. This land is now Israel, Jerusalem being the city capital of it. Let's look at it a little bit more. Let's go over to Psalms. Psalm 48. Psalm 48. We're going to read 2 verses. Verse 1 and 2. Psalm 48. Verse 1 and 2. When we get it, bro, go ahead and take it out.
A song and a song for the sons of Korah.
Psalms 48. 1, verse 1.
Great is the Lord, and great to be praised in the city of our God, and the mountain of his holiness.
You see that? Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, and the mountain of his holiness. Like, the Lord is great. But what is that in verse 2 though?
Beautiful for situations.
So beautiful for situations. Meaning, like, this is the Lord. Great is he. Guess what? He's beautiful for situations. But what else is that?
The joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion.
This is the joy of the whole earth. This is why, Jerusalem, which is Mount Zion, or Zion, is the center capital of the world. Because what? It says the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion. And what else?
On the sides of the north, the city of the great king.
The city of the great king. This is where God is going to set up his kingdom at. When you're going to read that Isaiah chapter 9, it talks about, a child is going to be born unto us. He's going to be called Mighty Counselor. The Father, let's go and read. I'm sorry. We almost done. Let's go and read because I'm finna butcher it. Yeah. Let's go and read Isaiah chapter 9. Yeah, I was finna kill it on the remix. Look at Isaiah chapter 9 and read verse 6 through 7.
For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders.
So government, like Jesus established a government. That's why we saw in that Psalms 48 and verse 2, it said the city of the great king, this is he. So that's why it says what? The joy of the whole earth is for Mount Zion. Because when you look at Zion, Mount Zion, that's a mountain. You know what I mean? That's why when you go to Micah chapter 4, I think, is that he's going to establish his kingdom in the mountains. And people are going to come up to serve and worship, to understand the laws of the Lord. It also says what? The law is going to go forth from Zion. So he says that now we're looking at the government, brothers and sisters, that's going to rest upon the shoulders of Jesus. What's his attributes going to look like? Go ahead.
And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
You see that? He's going to be the Counselor. He's going to be called Wonderful, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, and he's going to be the Prince of Peace. But what it say in verse 7 though?
Of the increase of his government in peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will form this.
And this is his government, brothers and sisters. This is how it's going to be established. Let's go over to Hebrews chapter 11. You know, the city of the great king. But he says that what? Not just Israel is the only ones that's going to be inhabiting this city on Mount Zion. Nah, other nations can get it as well. We can even see that in Ezekiel 44, if I'm not mistaken, or Ezekiel 48. How, like, you know, the same inheritance that's going to be given unto Israel, what we supposed to give it unto the strangers that sojourn among us. You know, but this is a covenant that was established with Abraham that's great. It's broad because there's so much inside of it. So we're looking at the everlasting possession. That's what we're looking at, because we saw it what prophesied through Genesis chapter 9, pertaining to what occurred with Noah cursing Canaan. He said what? Canaan gonna be a servant unto Shem. So that's what we're looking at right now. So let's look at this Hebrews chapter 11. And let's pick it up at verse 1. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1. When you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the words were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear.
So things that, you know, it says things which were seen, you know, were not made of, you know. In other words, this was all done of God. Like, man didn't have his hand in this creation. It was all done of God. But skip down to verse 13 and read that.
These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off.
So they all seen it afar off. Sarah, you know, talking about Abraham. You know, it's even talking about Enoch. It's talking about Noah. You know, but it's just letting you know that, like, they hadn't received the promise. You know the promise is? This everlasting possession is land. Them entering into it, also everlasting life. But it's talking about more so this land. We're going to read it. Keep on.
And were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confused that they confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth.
Go ahead.
They that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country.
So they seeking a country. You know, this is what they seek. What's that country? Keep going. Verse 15.
Truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned.
Go ahead.
But now they desire a better country, that is a heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city.
A city. This city is what? The city of the great king. Let's open to Revelation 21. Let's look at it. Revelation 21. This is that everlasting possession that, you know, the Lord was talking about, that came with inside of this covenant that the Lord established with Abraham. You know, we seeing it all. We seeing how that, you know, the covenant was granted to Abraham and his seed, but now, shoot, other nations can be granted with the same salvation inside of this covenant. They can also take part of this land. Revelation 21, let's read 1 through 4. We get it. Go ahead and take off, bro.
And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea.
So there was no more sea, but we see is that what? We see a new heaven and a new earth. We understand that as Jesus, he's going to establish a kingdom for 1,000 years. But even inside of his kingdom, he's going to have flesh and blood. That goes all the way back to that foreskin being circumcised from your flesh. That's what we deal with right now. We're looking at how in this kingdom, New Jerusalem, there's not going to be any flesh and blood. So he says that what? It says, I saw a new heaven and new earth. For the first heaven and first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Verse 2.
And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband.
Go ahead.
And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with you.
That's what we just read in Hebrews chapter 11. Is that now God can have a place where he can dwell. We're not talking about Jesus, because Jesus is going to be amongst flesh during his 1,000-year reign. We're talking about the Father. This is the one who now can dwell with men, is because you got immortality across the board. That's what you have going on at this point. So now we see is that what? It says, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and what else?
And he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them, and be their God.
Verse 4.
And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death.
You see that? That's off the table now. There's going to be death during Jesus' kingdom for 1,000 years. Because you still have sin going about. So we see is that what? In the Father's kingdom, or New Jerusalem, it says what? All tears, God shall wipe away all tears from the eyes. And there shall be no more death. And what else?
Neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
The former things are old, it's passed away. You no longer have to, deal with, your auntie on her deathbed because she died of cancer. Like, you no longer have to deal with that anymore. You no longer have to deal with, your brother getting shot down in the streets. That's not the case anymore. Because death doesn't exist anymore. This is that country that, they were seeking to find as to what we read in Hebrews chapter 11. This is that country. This is that everlasting possession that God was talking about with Abraham all the way back in Genesis. This is that everlasting possession of the land that God was going to give those that take hold of this covenant. Let's go a bit further though. Let's go here to Hebrews chapter 6. Because guess what you don't want to do? Now that you got all of this, how we finna end it, it's like a nightmare. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like, shoot, you can get all of this, take hold to it, and if you cramp out in the middle of it, you're going to fall short. We're going to see this after this Hebrews chapter 6. But that's what it's going to be. It's kind of like a selfie. You know what I mean? Kind of like, man, shoot, I'm this close. Guess what? I'm this close from falling too. That's something that we all must keep in mind. So let's look at this Hebrews chapter 6. And we're going to read verses 10 to 12. When you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have showed toward his name, in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister.
You see, like God don't forget. He's not unrighteous to forget your labor of love. You holding fast to keeping these commandments. You taking hold of the same faith of our forefather Abraham. Like, nah, God ain't gonna forget all that you've decided to, remove yourself completely from the worldly system as to how it operates to get you to fall away from God. Like, nah, he ain't gonna forget that. He's gonna reward you. So that's why it says at the bottom of verse 10. It says, have showed toward, which ye have showed toward his name, and that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. Verse 11.
And we desire that every one of you do show the same diligence to feel the assurance of hope until the end.
You see that? Like, you got to keep this assurance of full hope until the end. Not halfway through. Not a third. Nah. All the way until the end. But what is in verse 12?
That ye be not slothful, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promise.
You see that? This is why you got to keep it all the way until the end, so you can inherit this promise that was given to Abraham. Now let's look at the downsides of it. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 5. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, because there's always two sides to a coin. I don't care if you got a double-sided coin that got the same feature. Guess what? It's two sides. So to say all that, hey, there's always two sides to this walk. You keep walking in this faith, you'll see the example that's what for the read. You truly will. I mean, it's sad to say, but that's just the reality. Because even the Lord called it. He said, hey, man, a falling away has to occur. It has to take place. So it's kind of like, every time you wake up and look yourself in the mirror, you need to ask yourself, am I willing to fall from this and die forever? Or am I willing to lose my life for Christ and live forever? That's something you should always ask yourself every time you greet yourself in the morning with, brushing your teeth, washing your face, and all of that. You need to ask yourself, is this the game you want to be a part of? Because that's what it is. Like we saw is that it's blood covenant. So the only way you get out of this covenant is you die. That's it. So if you turn your back in the middle of this walk, let's look at this Ecclesiastes chapter 5. Let's let the Bible say it. Go ahead, verse 1.
Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil.
You see that? Like, in other words, take heed, listen. Don't be so quick to, want to give sacrifice. So, in other words, don't be so quick or hasty making moves. Nah, hear. In other words, don't be fixing your mouth to say stuff to God that you ain't going to uphold. That's what it's getting at. Let's read verse 2. Go ahead.
Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God.
So don't be hasty to utter anything before God. Like I said in the class, we make covenants with the Lightville people. We make covenants with our next door neighbor that, this week we're not going to have our music lasting. Like, we do that. But guess what? When you make a covenant with God, and you don't pay up, you a fool. That's what you are. So in other words, when you come in the blood covenant, you better understand what you're getting yourself into. That's why, I can understand is that when you baptizing a 12-year-old baby or a 12-year-old child, like, that's crazy. What the Catholic Church do when they do these Christians and babies that be like 6 or 7 months years old, that's the most stupidest thing I can ever see, because, like, the baby's 6 months. They ain't going to remember that. They're going to see pictures. So what? When they turn 15, they probably going to be raised in hell. So why would you want to, join this child to God at such an age where they don't even understand what they're getting themselves into? You the one that had pushed them into down that vow. Guess what? It's telling you, like, don't be rash with thy mouth, but let not thy heart be hasty to utter anything before God. Because what?
For God is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few.
So in other words, let your words be few, man. If you're going to do it, do it. If you ain't going to do it, don't speak on it. Verse 3.
For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by a multitude of words.
Go ahead.
When thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed.
You see that? Pay that which thou hast vowed. Because guess what? He ain't got no pleasure in fools. If you making your words hasty and you ain't willing to pay up, you a fool in the eyes of God. That's even with you coming inside of the covenant. You quick to say, oh man, I want to serve God, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's either you damned you do it and you damned if you don't. Guess what? Hey, if you jump right in and you try to jump right out, like, no, this ain't no hokey pokey. Like, you're gonna be short. You the one that's gonna come up short. So we see is that what? It says, when thou vows a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Verse 5.
Better is it that thou shouldest not vow, that thou shouldest vow and not pay.
Go ahead.
Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin.
You see that? This is what your mouth can get you into. It could get you into sin, because guess what you're doing? You lying to God. Like I said, Lord said, thou shalt not bear false witness. But you telling your Lightville people, hey man, I ain't got it today. Even if you don't set a payment arrangement a week ago and you ain't got it, you just really don't have it. But now something so simple as, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop fornication. I'm going to stop stealing. Or better yet, I'm going to stop breaking the Sabbath. You know what I mean? Like, those things can be controlled because that's in your grasp. That's in your arm reach. You can control that. So in other words, when you vow this vow unto God and you go back on it, you're the one that's coming up short. That's why in verse 6 it says, suffer thou thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. What else he say?
Neither say thou before the angel that it was an error.
So don't be trying to back out of it. Oh man, I ain't mean to say that, Lord. Like, nah, you said it though. You know what I mean? Like, you said it. Keep going though.
Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice and destroy the work of thine hands?
So the Lord's going to be angry with you and he's going to destroy the works of your hands. Verse 7.
For in the multitude of dreams, in many words, there are also diverse vanities, but the fear of thy God.
But fear God. Let's go to the 2 Peter chapter 20 now. That's the whole ultimate, fear God. We see that across the board. It's just not for the Israelite, it's for the Greek as well, and for him as well. So across the board, fear God. Right? Mm-hmm. So let's look at this 2 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 2 and 20. 2 Peter chapter 2 and 20. When you get it, go ahead and read it. You cool.
For if after they have accepted the pollution of the world through the knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they are again entangled therein.
So the saying is like, you don't escape the pollutions of this world. Meaning like, you're dealing with the word of God. Like, you don't escape the pollutions of this world. Meaning, you ain't partaking in idolatry. You ain't partaking in, all the wickedness that this world is offering. You don't escape the pollutions of this world. But then it says, they are again entangled therein. Go ahead.
And overcome, the latter end is worse with them than the beginning.
Because verse 21 is going to make it very clear. Read it, brother.
For it had been better for them not to have known the way of the righteous.
You see that? It is better for you not to have even known the ways of righteousness. It's better for you. Because now you know that the Sabbath day is on the 7th day of the week. You got to be in attendance. Now you know that you can't no longer eat calamari. You can't eat shrimp. You can't be eating pork. Like, now that you know that, guess what? You got to be doing it. Now you know that, hey, man, I can't just be laying down with all these sisters. Or you know what? I can't lay down with all these brothers, women. Or you know what? If I'm sleeping with another man, being a man, like, nah. Now that you know that that's evil in the eyes of God, and you still go against it, you're tripping. That's why Peter's letting you know that, for it had been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than the what?
Then after they have known it, to turn from the holy commandment delivered unto them.
So it was better for you not to even have known. That's just like we look at all the mob movies. You know what I mean? Like they get in the mob, they get deep into the mob, and then they get a little scary and they want to get out the mob. Nah, because now you can possibly be informant. So we finna kill you because you're trying to get out. That's the same way with God. Like, nah, it's too late. That's why we saw in Ecclesiastes chapter 5. Don't be talking about, I ain't know it's hard. Like, I ain't know that my family was going to be against me. I ain't know that my neighbors was going to not invite me over anymore. I ain't know that my co-workers was going to be against me and talking evil against my goodness of God. Like, I ain't know all this was going to take place. So, you know what, God? Man, I'm good. Nah, because you can't say, oh, before the angel, it was an error. Nah, because what you did was you took hold of this vow. This vow has attached to this covenant. What we see is that the Lord said, hey man, they have known it to turn from the holy commandment delivered unto them, and it was better for you not to have even known the ways of righteousness. Because this is what it's going to be like. Let's go over to this proverb. Proverb 26. This is what you're going to look upon that. We're going to read one verse. Proverbs 26. We're going to read one verse 11. Proverbs 26. Proverbs 26 and verse 11. Go ahead and read, bro.
As a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly.
You see that? That's what you're gonna be like. You know, dogs. They don't throw up. They going back and they throw up. Like, nah, man, that's crazy. Dog sick. You sick. You know what I mean? Because what? You don't turn back from righteousness to the Father. You know what I mean? Like you spiritually sick. But guess what? Let's look at this Hebrews chapter 10. Like your end game ain't good. It really ain't. Like you gotta realize, man, like, it's man, when you up in this covenant, man, like it ain't no getting out. Because you gotta realize it ain't gonna be easy. You think when you come into this covenant, the walk get easier. Nah. It gets harder. Guess what helps you along the walk? This word. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what helped you. So then when you realize that, guess what? At the end of this walk, and I get this reward. This reward is everlasting life. Then guess what? It kind of makes it a little easy. But even when you look at the times that we in, man, we ain't got long, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see us having like 40 years, I don't see us having 30 years, possibly 20, possibly. But, when you're looking at how the world is starting to shape itself, how everything is starting to go along with prophecy. Like, we don't have that long, brothers and sisters. So that's why I always say I can clearly understand why God had to cut down long life. He had to, because man, we dealing with the word for like 2 years, and we get a hold of YouTube and we go crazy. Now, our first love ain't no longer our first love, which is the word. Now, we don't been infected by some doctrine that's on a computer. So this is why I can fully comprehend, and that's as to what I see. I'm not saying it's fact, but as to what I read, if we was living to be 800, 900 years old, I'll be the first to admit I'll probably fall off at 300 years of age. Serious. Because it's a constant fight right now. And me compared to others, I've been the word very little. So just so that you know, is when you take hold of this covenant, this is when the true fight begins. Like you already in your folly when you in the world, so that's easy. Shoot, I can hit this shit, that shit. I love that. You know what I mean? Or shoot, I can get over on this person, get over on that person. Like, that's something that's easy. I love that. But now when you wean yourself away from that, and you try to stay right in the eyes of God, always coming, that's the fight. And that's you keeping your flesh under control. That's the fight. So you got to realize that if you decide to go back to your vomit, it ain't good. I'm letting you know. So let's look at this Hebrews chapter 10. This will be the last place. Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 26. When you get it, go ahead and read it, bro.
For if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth.
You see that? You don't receive the knowledge of the truth, but guess what? I still like how I feel. What else it say?
There remaineth no more sacrifice for sin.
So Jesus is not going on the cross, dying again for you. He's done it once. That is it. So if you can't get your feel good under control, then guess what? There remain no more sacrifice for you sinning. What's in verse 27?
But a certain fearful looking for judgment and fiery indignation.
This is what you need to start looking forward towards. Fiery indignation. We know what that is, right? That's the lake of fire. So this is your end game. Like if you can't get your feel good under control, guess what? This is the reward for you not being able to put your flesh in complete subjection unto God. Is looking, it says what? But a certain fearful looking for a judgment and fiery indignation. What else?
Which shall devour the adversary.
You see that? Which shall devour the adversaries. But what's in verse 28 though?
He that despised Moses' law died without mercy.
You see that? He that despised Moses' law, guess what? And you die without mercy. How is that?
Under 2 or 3 witnesses.
See that? 2 or 3 witnesses. So under Moses' law, hey man, I saw it, he saw it, you getting stoned, depending on what the law was that you wrote. That's it. Like we saw the man having to the man picking sticks on David. Like, they stoned him there. But this stoning is going to be worse. It's going to be fiery indignation. So we see that through the course of the class. We read and understand is that, Abraham is the father of our faith. You believe in Abraham, told your faith all the way into the end. But of course, throughout that walk, you got to get them sins off. You have to. You have to get them sins off you, and that's what's going to bring you into the covenant, because the blood is what is going to seal the deal. So now if you carry this all the way out to the end, guess what you're going to be able to do? You're going to be able to possess the land that was given to Abraham for everlasting possession. But if not, you choose to fall back in your vomit, you're going to be looking what? Fearful, looking for a judgment and fiery indignation. So, the covenant between God and man, I pray somebody got some understanding. I thank you for your time in Jesus' name. So we'll have the announcements.
Our prayer is that the eyes of your understanding were enlightened by today's lesson. DVDs and CDs of the lessons are available. Please place your order in the offering box along with your donation and pick up your DVD CD up at the podium next Sabbath. Please tune in to the Kingdom Come television program, which airs in various locations. Also, join us for a question and answer Bible study in about an hour from now. and every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via live stream and or teleconference at 860-970-0010, access code 343-531-334#. If you feel you are ready to be baptized, please sign the baptismal list at the podium or speak with Brother Tony or Brother Anthony. On the first Sunday of every month, we broadcast the Bible in plain view. This broadcast gives brothers an opportunity to read and or teach a short 30-minute class. If you're interested in helping, please let us know. The following is the dress code for our service. All clothing should be modest in appearance. Nothing tight-fitting, overly baggy, sagging, or revealing should be worn. Men are to remove hats and all head coverings, and women should wear a head covering, such as a hat, scarf, according to 1 Corinthians 11, verse 1-7. If your young child becomes noisy during the lesson, distracting other members, please remove him or her to the other room next door. Any tithes and or offerings should be put in the offering envelope and placed in the offering box near the podium. Pray for our strength as we pray for you. Until the next Sabbath. Peace.
Peace. Alright, so with that being said, if nobody have anything, as I always say, man, definitely keep each other in prayer, man. This walk ain't a cakewalk, man. You constantly fight. So, if we keep that in mind, understanding that prayer is powerful, and we just keep everybody prayed up, we can push through, man. Y'all definitely keep Tony and Sister Claire in y'all prayers, as they about to, birth this baby. But, keep everybody in prayer, man. You know what I mean? Because that's going to help out in a lot of time that we're dealing with. So, that being said, man, definitely pray for my family. I got a whole house full of 6 kids. So, definitely keep them in prayer. If nobody ain't got anything, man, we're going to face Jerusalem and close out. We're going to come back and Q&A.
Our Father which art in heaven.
Our Father which art in heaven.
Hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done on earth.
Thy will be done on earth.
As it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us of our debts.
And forgive us of our debts.
As we forgive our debtors.
As we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation.
And lead us not into temptation.
But deliver us from evil.
But deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom.
For thine is the kingdom.
And the power.
And the power.
And the glory.
And the glory. Forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
For he is good.
For he is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
For he is good.
For he is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
His mercy endures forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
Holy One of Israel.
The Holy One of Israel.
The King of Kings.
The King of Kings.
And the Lord of Lords.
The Lord of Lords.
And the one true God.
The one true God.
And there is no other.
There is no other.
Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.